Hey everybody, welcome to Bish's RV. My name is Josh the RV Nerd. That's my Coldwater, Michigan hometown superstore. And this is a tiny little potentially SUV towable kind of camper. Now it really depends on what SUV you have and what kind of capacities. But this is a solid little, I'm going to primarily call it like a solo camper. But I think if you're a cozy couple, more in that honeymoon Netflix and chill phase, and less in the Amazon Prime and commitment phase, you might be able to get by in one of these too. It's interesting because for the most part, it's a simple, straightforward, no nonsense camper, but it has a couple really nice glamper features on it that really kind of surprised me. Like one of the biggest ones is what's up top. The air conditioner on this is a GE profile air unit, which is more powerful, more energy efficient. It is something that you're definitely going to hear inside. Like you'll hear the noise level of it, but it actually has a factory standard heat pump built right into it. And that is incredibly uncommon in the RV industry as a whole, let alone in a single axle, budget focused little trailer, not to mention it still has a propane furnace. So this little camper actually has dual heating, which is kind of crazy. Now they've got like a 7-foot, what I call true U dinette in the back. It's a 7.5-foot wide camper though. Now up front is where I think this is more of kind of a solo camper because it is an east-west corner bed. It's definitely shoved up in there. And there's other builders who make a floor plan similar to this that's a little longer on a tandem axle with a walk-around bed, but they're way heavier, more expensive. They're a lot longer. They're a lot heavier to tow. This thing comes in significantly less weight, less cost, less size. It's very, very easy to tote around. And if you're just kind of a little easy weekend casual sort of camper, this thing's gonna get you by just fine. But things like that, we're gonna tell you what's awesome about this and maybe what's not, so that you can decide if it's the right RV for you or not. And if you appreciate that fair way looking at it, hit that subscribe button. And as we go, let me know what you like and what you change if you had the opportunity, the chance. Didn't know what I wanted to say, so what came out is as we step inside here, I want to point out that over on the left, you see the entry door, just to help give you a point of reference. Like basically, I'm sitting on the front Camp Queen mattress looking backwards at this thing. We're going to come back and look at the kitchen in more detail. But one of the things I want to mention real quick, that is a 12-volt fridge. It doesn't look like one, but that actually is a 12-volt fridge. And this little switch over here is actually an on-off kill switch for that fridge so that you can make sure, you know, when the RV's in storage, even though the RV has its own exterior battery disconnect, you're not eating your battery. I also really appreciate they did leave some good dedicated counter space right here. That's not terrible. And I really like the paper towel rod, the thing that's sticking up here. Sometimes it doesn't have to be flashy or fancy. It just has to work. And when you're in a small trailer like this, the RV needing to just work is probably one of the most important factors you're going to have out there. Now, the camera work on this is going to look absolutely super cramped because this is a tiny, tight RV. And with a middle bathroom fully enclosed, it really blocks up and boxes up the whole space. I don't like to use fisheye wide-angle lenses. I'm going to try to avoid using one here. I might have to touch it at some point, but just to give you, an idea that, yeah, this is cramped quarters, but I want you to get a real-world estimation of this. The air conditioner I was staring at there, by the way, that also, again, is not just an air conditioner. It does have an electric heat pump built onto it, but you still have a propane furnace down below the stovetop. Now, the window coverage here is actually pretty good. I'm going to back up just a couple steps. Remember, we also have a window in the entry door. The window in the door doesn't open for airflow. It doesn't have a privacy shade on it. It is prepped for one, but these open for airflow. The big windows over here. It does not have a window over here on the poop side of the camper overlooking the neighbor's site, which might be nice for cross breeze airflow. It could be nice for some fresh air. But at the same time, we have the opportunity now to turn chicken poop into chicken soup, which is a delightful metaphor, I think, because this is a stick-built camper. You have wood studs in the walls, on average, every 16 inches on center. So you get a stud finder, fellas hold it up to your chest and go, yep, there's one, to calibrate it. And then you can go through here and find where the studs are in the walls. And if you wanted to hang something on a nice big blank wall, you now have the opportunity. So I'm kind of curious, what do you think you would do with that space right there? I've got my own decorating ideas, and I just bumped into the stovetop sparker, so I'm going to move on from my idea because now I'm doing stupid stuff. But hey, moving on here. The RV's 7.5 foot wide. Now you've got it about 2 inches on each side, or 1.5 inches on each side. You figure for your wall thickness. You've got a about a 7-foot dinette right here, but that left them a couple extra inches, and they didn't want that space to go to waste, so they added this handy little stand right here. I could see a small little potted plant or something. I like the extra little power outlets that you have over there. If you wanted to use that shelf over here as like a little phone charging station, it'd be a perfect little place to do it. And of course, with a 7-foot dinette, we have ourselves a a big sort of seating area. I will say this is really intended to be a solo or couples camper. If you try to pack 4 people around that sucker, it's going to get tight real fast. I thought I'd jump in front of the camera here to show you like a real world body size demo of this. If this kind of stuff is handy, by the way, leave me a little like on the video, or subscribe if you're new and you appreciate the extra effort. One of the things I want to kind of dispel is the fact that U-dinettes, as cool as they are, they have a couple downsides. One of those downsides is they actually, surprisingly, seat fewer people. Unless you have an unwanted guest and you give them this place to sit, and chances are they won't sit for very long. Never mind that. But if you notice my legs, and I've got them pulled back, they're affecting whoever might sit here on this bench. Whoa, stop it. I should have rehearsed this, but I didn't. When I turn to sit on the back bench, now I'm preventing anybody from sitting on this whole thing over here. So it really only is a 2 or 3 person seat. But in this little camper, it's not like a 10-person bunkhouse. Do you need more than this? I don't think you need more than this myself. If you really do, what I would do is get a very simple, inexpensive folding stool from Walmart or Target or Amazon. I'd stuff them off in a corner under the dinette. I'd bust them out and I'd lay them over here if I needed them, because that's what a U-dinette really does. It provides a bigger table surface area so that if you want to sit people on both sides, it's a little easier to wrap around it. But everything has a push and a pull. What this does do, though, is give us a bigger sleeper. And that actually opens up this floor plan to a couple of more interesting uses. I think that there's a group of people out there that largely get overlooked, maybe because it's uncomfortable, but the single parent camper, where it's a parent and a kid, and they don't want to spend money on a big giant bunkhouse that most of the time, doesn't get used, but they want something where they could take their kid out for the weekend. This is something that could do that. Or buddy hunting camping, something like that. If you're mostly a solo RVer, but occasionally you bring a friend for a weekend, this is something that could do it. By the way, if you are going to convert this into a sleeper, you might notice how the big cushion from the rear bench goes under it, and then you use 3 of the long cushions to kind of fill in the blank space right there. And there's also the simplest, stupidest little things that I look for. The fact that they actually included the little Velcro spots right there just to keep the cushions from constantly falling down. It is amazing how many RV manufacturers won't spend 2 cents on a dime-sized piece of Velcro, piece of Velcro, to improve your camping experience. But Catalina's doing the things that need done. And there is storage below it, but not below the entire thing. You might notice this side over here, the plywood, and it's actually 3/8 plywood that you're sitting on, which is nice. It's screwed down because there's things like a water heater under it. And this storage, you got to tear the dinette apart to get to it. You got to lift everything up and peel it apart, and that's not awesome, but you can still access it. It is still there. It is not wasted space. And this is a budget-sensitive trailer, so we don't have things like, special storage solutions. But this is probably how I'd use it the most. I'd leave it in like open lounge mode, and it does help the room feel a little bit bigger. I kind of just threw the tabletop over there to get out of the way. Now, you may have noticed I've really demonstrated the pleated blackout shade here. That wasn't exactly by decision. I kind of follow a policy of if I see something, I say something. I try to be ultra fair in my videos, and I think this is a good example. I would have really loved to show you how much viewing and nice big window you get here, but unfortunately, the drawstrings need tightened up. Now, that's a super easy thing to do, and our team will take care of that before this RV finds its final destination, but that's one of the hiccups with drawstring windows, is sometimes those strings stretch, and the more you use them, the more that you may need to deal with that. But I do also want to point out, they don't have that kind of window shade over here. This is just a couple little sliding curtains, and I don't know. I'm kind of becoming a fan of this. Maybe it's not, it's very inexpensive. You could say, oh man, that looks cheap. Maybe, yeah. But you know what? It works. And it's really hard to screw those up. And anytime something's a little more idiot-proof, well, it kind of gets kind of gets my vote a little bit. We're going to come back to the kitchen in just a second. I need to continue spinning around because what you haven't seen is what's over here in this little corner, and it's not much. There's just a tiny little cabinet space. They had a little pocket they didn't want to go to waste, and I respect that. You have your converter box, your fuse panel over here, easily accessed, nice out of the way. And for entertainment, if you choose to add a television, we have yet another big blank wall over here. So I guess you could mount a TV over there through the wall studs. I'm assuming there's a prep point in the wall over here to add a TV mount, but I don't see a sticker indicating it, so that might be something we want to verify for you. Speaking of the kitchen, I do think it's high time that we busted her open, took a look at it in full detail. One thing I do kind of want to mention here as we look through this is all pocket screwed lumber core cabinetry, so it actually is screws into wood. It's not just staples and beaver puke. I haven't said the beaver puke phrase in a very long time. I do want to point out, though, notice how you actually do have a stovetop vent hood, and you'll see when we step outside, it actually does ventilate. Now, that is a tiny sink, but it's a tiny camper. And if it was a giant sink, you'd have to really hurt the refrigerator space, and you'd lose a bunch of counter space. So, I don't know. What do you think? Did they do a good job here? I also want to be fair and mention this RV doesn't have a single drawer. And I can tell you why. Because you see that empty-faced dead pocket, you're like, well, that'd be perfect for a drawer. Well, RV fire code says because there's a heating element right here, there has to be a heat shield above it, which obviously is not present. And I know that because I've talked to Wolf Pup about this, and I think Wolf Pup's actually going to be adding heat shielding and adding at least one drawer to almost all their floor plans.
And we're really on the wrong side of the kitchen, well, we were previously, to get a look inside this refrigerator here. Again, this is a 12-volt fridge. There's a tiny little popsicle-sized freezer pocket right at the top there. And again, it does have its own little kind of kill switch, which is sort of cool. The bathroom, if I was going to describe this in a very flowery fashion, I would say that it is rather Spartan in its appointments. It is a absolute minimalist bathroom. You might notice on the left side of the screen, it is shockingly fluffy friendly, though. It's a plastic stool. It's not porcelain. That's something that could be swapped out if you are so inclined. And really, I'm actually kind of shocked at how big the shower pan is here. So it's actually much more elbow friendly. Now let's talk about the fact that it doesn't have shower surround paneling. This is a very classic way of doing RVs, and I get that a lot of people don't like it. Could some surround paneling be added after the fact? Yeah, probably. They're just not doing it from the factory. What you need to do, after you're done showering, you need to take your towel and wipe down the walls. And then you need to turn on this vent fan that's also doubling as a skylight above the shower. And you have to let that sucker roll for a while so that it gets the humidity out of the room. And if you do that, you won't damage the walls. It feels super spooky, but you'll be okay. Now, normally when I see a skylight vent fan above the shower like that, I'm like, oh, cool. But look at this on the right side of the screen. When I tried to stand up in there, I was hitting my head on the knobs, on the switches, on everything. And I'm a little over 6 foot tall. I still couldn't quite stand in that thing. So not awesome, but I'll give you the details there. Now, to get you the camera angles that we had, I've got my camera jockeyed upside down and holding it all kinds of weird over here. So if you're like, is that how he does his videos today? Yeah, I do what I gotta do to get you the footage, folks. I did notice too, there's some nice big open floor space over there next to the toilet. That could be a very handy spot for like a broom storage. And if I get you up here above the toilet, you'll see there's a tiny little shelf where maybe you're gonna roll up some towels and stuff them up there. Maybe that's where you're gonna keep some extra toilet paper. But if I can get you over here around the corner, you see that there's actually a power outlet up there. Now, sorry, the camera work is really weird. Again, I'm improvising my camera grip just to try to get you any sort of footage today. We also have a single Octopus Fight Club towel holder here. You may have noticed there was another one on the wall. Now, there's no sort of privacy curtain in this thing, but it's a tiny, tiny little camper. I don't know that privacy is a thing that even exists in this little RV. Again, the RV is 7.5 foot wide, but it's a short queen bed. It's a 74-inch mattress. What that means is that you have this extra pocket of space here. Now, they do something with it. They don't let it go to waste. You might notice that you do have some household and USB outlets up there by the, I'm guessing this will probably be the headboard side of things. At night, if there's two of you, yeah, you are absolutely crawling over one another. And I will say, because there's no wiring in this box, if
you wanted to remove that, it wouldn't be hard, and that would free up the space where if you wanted to put in a 60 by 80 true queen bed, you could. So from the factory, it's a short queen. Some folks who are not as tall as me, they're gonna be like, that's fine. Some folks who are taller than me, they're gonna be like, it's got to be a true queen. It's gonna take about 5 minutes to pull off that little boxy area right there, and you're gonna lose your headboard, to be fair, but you will be able to make this a true queen bed. So it's just really a matter of which way is more important for you. I just want to arm you with the info. Looking at myself in the viewfinder here, I am glistening in this nice little hot box to get you the footage today. But what I want to talk about is not that, is no slides. Simpler, easier, lighter, less expensive, less upkeep, less seals, less maintenance, less space. But for road mode, it's 100% always functional. You literally don't even have to unhitch from this thing. If you pull into someplace middle of the night, you're dog tired, and you just got to get the sleep out of your eyes, you don't even have to unhitch. You really don't even have to put down stabilizers. You can open the door of your truck, walk in the camper, lock it so the gas station murder hobos don't come and get you, and then snooze a little bit. Wake up, have your morning constitutional, have a cup of coffee, hit the road, Jack. So as we step outside here, let's talk some nuts and bolts. Let's talk some towing factors. Take a look at that. Well, second look at the weights and measures across the bottom of the screen there. You'll see that this is only 7.5 foot wide. So this, I think, there's going to be some bigger SUVs that can handle it. I think it's an absolutely ideal pairing for many tow package mid-size pickups. If you've got a smaller vehicle that has a tow rating, but you don't necessarily, have the capacity to get up into some big trailer. I've said the word big too much. You get the idea. That's where this one kind of comes in. Dry, totally empty as we're looking at it, it's just under 3,000 pounds. And that's what most people are going to tell you. And if you have a 3,500 pound tow rating, you should not buy this camper. And a lot of places are going to try to sell you this camper. And that's a terrible recipe. That's a recipe for disaster, because the total GVW of this thing is approaching 4,400 pounds. But what's awesome about that is that means that this thing has like over 1,300 pounds of available cargo carry capacity. I think you're really going to have to go out of your way loading concrete mix into this thing for that to actually start to become an issue. Now, this is a personal opinion. I personally feel not including a baggage door on the other side of what otherwise would have been a full pass-through, I think that was a penny wise and pound foolish decision. Because if cargo shifts, yeah, I can lift the bed to get to it. But man, if cargo shifts all the way against that wall, which it does, and it will, it's going to be really hard to get to. So that's just my 2 cents. Now, down here in the little bitty Summits, we do not have factory standard solar. They're all prepped and wired for a basic sort of battery tender solar package, but that's all it's really for. Something else I want to point out is that this is not running on your industry standard Lippert chassis. This is actually on a Norco frame, which is a huck bolted chassis. It's kind of generally been my experience that RVs that ride on that chassis seem to come in with fewer structural issues. It's also a more expensive chassis. So again, there's some really interesting areas where they chose to invest money on this. But I think, like your air conditioner, your chassis, your awning, the multicolor, like disco awning lighting. That's all stuff that they did here. And I am also surprised they stuck with their JBL sound system on this. It looks like a single speaker. It actually has a left-right element built into it, so essentially there's 2 speakers stacked on top of one another, but it's a tiny camper. I don't care. I don't care if they're next to each other. I don't, this thing is a small RV with a really tiny awning. I don't need my speakers spread all over Timbuktu. I do appreciate that all of the windows that you see open for airflow. You do still have a stovetop heat exhaust vent hood. Those are, again, some of those little details that the budget trailers often leave out. You got the drunken uncle leash latch back there. It is rear stabilizer jacks only, though. So the RV might be a little bit wiggly. Someone might ask, well, can we get it with stabilizers on the front also, so that, I don't get motion sick if you're sensitive to that? The answer is not from the factory, but they're so easily added aftermarket. It's something that could absolutely be done. It just isn't done from the factory. It doesn't look really obvious, but that actually is a little bit of a barreled ceiling on the outside, or barreled roof line, as it were, so you will get some water runoff. And again, the air conditioner up top is also a factory standard heat pump. So that's a really cool little detail there. That is also a gas and electric water heater, so it's not on demand only. I've heard some boondocking folks prefer the gas electric varieties. I will say this RV has minimal holding tank capacities, though. This is not the kind of RV that is made for, you know, going down logging trails and spending a week off grid. That's not what this is. This is a very casual use, simple series camper. Your sewer stuff does feel like it hangs a little bit low to the ground, but you don't tend to get a lot of dip in front of the axles right there. I will say, though, you're going to want to make sure you really go over speed bumps nicely, slowly, and carefully. Otherwise, you know, I could see that being a bit of an issue, and I'd rather you get to go camping and not have to repair your RV's sewer system. So I thought I'd point that out. So what do you guys think? Is this a nailed it? Is this a failed it? Did they do the right thing? Could they make it a little bit better? Like, what would you suggest? Now, to help you with that decision, since dollars and cents always play into it, we're going to leave you links in the video description to check for pricing and availability. Now, in terms of similar floor plans, Bullet is one of the only other builders I've seen with a single axle with a pretty much similar floor plan like this. Normally, you're going to run into tandem axles though. So if you're like, I like this, but I wish it had two axles, take a look at the links in the description. J-Flight, Grey Wolf, both make some excellent, excellent versions of this. And they're not the only ones. Like Springdale Hideout, they have a good version too. Short of that, thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for hanging out with old Uncle Josh here on a beautiful sunny day. So take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.